everyone, and welcome to this month's edition of the Roundtable. This will be the last installment of a number here that while I've been mayor of the city of Elyria. Today, for your reference, is Wednesday, December 7th, the 70th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. We celebrated that at the local VFW this morning. But Andy, welcome here. And
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You know, we've been doing this now for, I think, over 11 years, approaching 12 years. We've probably done well over 100 of these episodes. I've been to all of them. If I haven't been able to make it, we've rescheduled. But I think I doubt you've missed more than one or two in all of those many years. I think you've some of the reporters have come and gone, but you as the editor have been tried and true, and I've appreciated the attention that yourself and your newspaper has given to helping the community be more informed about matters going on, to have an unscripted conversation with myself, and I appreciate the commitment your paper and yourself have had toward that communication and community information. So having said that, tear into me.
Well, thank you very much. I think it has been worthwhile. I know the program is perhaps not the most highly rated program out there, but I do think people catch it as they are flipping through the channels, and occasionally when we're on a topic that they find interesting, they listen in. Yeah. I'm going to ask a question that I think I've been asking since May when you lost the primary, or maybe since June after you lost the primary. What are you going to do next?
We're going to start there, huh? Okay. Well, the timing is such. Been doing a lot of soul searching and contemplating what is next for me. I've been contemplating, as you've asked, whatever you're going to do, public, private, elected, what have you. I've given considerable thought to all of them and have an interest in many fronts. And ultimately, over the coming years, I probably will continue to explore options in all those areas. But elective service is an area that I find particularly rewarding, and I feel I'm particularly suited to serve. I feel I've served Elyria well in the 12 years as mayor and 6 years on city council, and it's hard to walk away from elective service altogether. And today's a filing deadline for the March primary coming up, and after leaving this program, I will be going to the Board of Elections to file my petitions to run for Lorain County Commissioner. Again, the filing deadline is today, December 7th. The primary is March 6th. Everything is accelerated because of the ironies. It's because of the presidential election. However, the presidential primary will not be at this point until June. So others will have to explain that, but that's what it is. And I will be filing, and I have very strong interest, of course, not just in Elyria, but Lorain County and how its effect is on Elyria and how intertwined we all are. And so I have that strong interest, and I will be pursuing that.
All right, well, you might not be surprised to know that I have 3 follow-up questions here based on your running for county commissioner, because that's been rumored.
Okay, I understand
that. There are 2 incumbents up for re-election, Ted Kalo and Lori Kokoski. They're both Democrats. Which one are you taking on, and why are you taking on an incumbent from your own party?
Yeah, it's part of the answers to such questions I was planning to offer perhaps later on, several weeks from now, but I guess in the interest of the camera rolling, I'll do my best to give an answer here. I will be filing in the position currently held by Commissioner Kokoski. We are both Democrats, and things running in partisan primaries seems to be a more common occurrence nationally, perhaps, but certainly in Elyria and Lorain County. I lost by someone challenging me within my party. I did so 12 years ago, and Commissioner Kokoski, she did the same herself 8 years ago. She ran against married Commissioner Vasey at that time. So, this is the environment we're all in, and it comes down to our desire to serve and where we feel is our best opportunity, and ultimately it's up to the community to determine who they think is the appropriate person to be in the various positions. All we as individuals can do is put ourselves out there, which I am planning to do. I get along fine with Commissioner Kokoski, and I certainly do well with Commissioner Kalo. But the issue here, among other things, is part of a platform that will be developed over the course of the campaign is the importance of regionalism and the role that the county commissioners need to play beyond just advisory and management of the county activities. They, in my view, need to be a much more engaged facilitator of Lorain County and Lorain County's role within the region, and communication with its elected officials. Commissioner Kalo, I hear from on a regular basis. He's regularly contacting me to ask my view on matters and how they can be of help to the city and so on, and I don't hear that from Commissioner Kokoski. I have nothing against her other than I feel that there's much more that can be done from that position, and I've learned well from my perspective of the role that I believe the county commissioner can play in helping the lives of residents in our county and the city of Elyria and the other cities, of course, in the county.
Now, your critique of the commissioners as insufficiently engaged in regional issues is something that could apply to Mr. Kalo, Mr. Williams, and Lori Kokoski. The only specific critique you had of her was that she doesn't contact you as much as Mr. Kalo does. Do you think she is particularly inadequate or hasn't grasped the opportunity to pursue regionalism that Mr. Kalo has, for example, and Mr. Williams?
Yeah, I'd say there's a distinct comparison between the two on that front. Mr. Kalo, for example, is engaged in NOACA, for example, that's become more, people have become more aware in Lorain County over various issues. Both are on the board of NOACA. Mr. Kalo's attendance record is dramatically, I couldn't tell you what it is, but it's dramatically better than Commissioner Kokoski's, number one. Secondly, Commissioner Kalo's on the executive board of NOACA that I just left at the end of last year. So he's definitely stepped up his engagement on that front. But there are many other really, but at least several other regional organizations that are valuable to be participating in that Commissioner Kokoski is not. And I hate to speak too much about somebody that's not here on the camera and able to defend themselves, but I feel that that's an important area. The governments, and I can maybe bring this more to Elyria and how it can apply elsewhere and all. Governments, has been well demonstrated on this program and in the paper, we've had to make sizable cuts for many years, and we try to maintain service levels the best we can, and we tend to do that through technology and just drawing upon people to do more. But ultimately, when you cut personnel, you cut expenses, you're cutting services to an extent. But we do our best to maintain them. Governments at all levels, the county and the cities, we've so well exhausted that avenue of cutting expenses that have also cut services. To me, the wave we're in and is going to be relied upon more in the future is partnerships between various governments, between cities, between different levels of government, the city and counties, and just different levels and partner or neighboring units of government. And that's where the commissioners, I believe, need to play a much more aggressive role in bringing the communities together to help encourage dialogue and partnerships. One we just did here this summer that was critical, a great program here with our city jail with the county program. It's an absolute win-win arrangement between the city of Elyria and Lorain County, where our jail is made available for their female inmates, which we've talked about in the past. But things like that need to be constantly on the table and constantly explored. And I've been doing that the best I can, and we've been relatively successful. But things would happen at I think a faster pace and more widespread if we had even stronger leadership from the Board of Commissioners to make those things happen. And that's a role that I believe I can play. I have the background that knows firsthand up front the ramifications of doing or not doing these things.
Like the city, the county has tried to pass a tax increase. Voters rejected a 0.25% increase in the sales tax this past November. You're going, if anything, from the kettle to the fire if you actually do end up as a commissioner. Would you push for a tax increase?
Well, I think the first step is I don't know. I think they're going to try it again yet this coming year in 2012. It would have to be in November, otherwise perhaps a special election in August. I'm not even sure they're allowed to do that, but probably November if they do that. Of course, that will be the current board's determination if they're going to put that on the ballot. I think the need has clearly been established, but I think there's a level of confidence among the voters that the county is doing all that it can to properly manage and keep expenses in order. So I'll be more prepared to comment in a little more detail as time goes on about, how soon the county should try again. But I think some steps need to be done to change the dynamics. It lost, by a very large margin. So simply putting it on the ballot once again without making some fundamental changes of some sort or another would seem to be foolish at this point. So perhaps, a different person in the position. We, as you've said in your question, the City of Elyria, we've tried a number of times, and every one's been a different variation, from more all-encompassing income tax measure to the latest, which was precisely for the police department. That one came the closest. They tried with law enforcement as well, criminal justice, which was more encompassing, including the courts. We have to learn at every step, and I'm hopeful that we can learn from the past failures by the county. I think the fact that Lorain County's sales tax is among the very lowest, like the third or fourth lowest in all of the state of Ohio, it speaks volumes for the need. And I think that's an important way to make the case, in part.
Okay. Speaking of past failures, are you concerned that in 2010 a former mayor, who was also a Democrat like you, ran for commissioner and lost to Tom Williams? I refer to Joe Kazura of Lorain. And why do you think the same thing won't happen to you?
Well, that was a very close race that, he narrowly lost that race. I think among the arguments that we heard often, that you heard around the county, was that there was a reluctance by many to have, had he won, there would have been 3 commissioners from one city, from the city of Lorain. And I think there was some reluctance among voters, around the county, that maybe that wasn't the best, the wisest place for 3 people to come from the very same community. And honestly, I think that's an element of this.
Good afternoon, Elyria High School. For today's end of the day announcements, just a couple. Just a reminder, there is wrestling practice, swimming practice, boys basketball, girls basketball practice, as well as the bowling match taking place tonight. Pioneer Pack members, get those forms turned in tomorrow. Hey, people in the community are talking. They can't wait to see the Pioneer Pack on
I can pick up. I got my mind set on where we left off, so we'll pick it up after the announcements.
Large group, and so am I.
Do you want to go back to the beginning?
No, I think I can pick out where we left off.
If I stop, give like a second and a half delay, and we'll splice it together.
Okay, good.
Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the sunshine and get those forms turned in. Pioneer Pack.
I think that's an element perhaps that may play into this election, in that right now there are 2 commissioners from Lorain, and here's an opportunity to kind of spread the representation. Should I win, and Mr. Kalo hold on, that there'd be 1 from Lorain and 1 from Elyria. So I think that may play a positive role in people's mind around the Lorain County. So I think that's a factor.
Okay. Let's turn to Elyria. We took a shot at the Chronicle-Telegram at defining your legacy as mayor on the editorial page today. How would you like to be remembered?
Well, I think that was a very fair attempt. I think design review and equality of a community is an important. I would expand it slightly to say not just the visual appeal of the city, although that is clearly a point of emphasis, but I would say in general the quality of the community, I would say, would be a more encompassing view, that I think everything we've done fits within that area of quality, and that is quality buildings and facilities, from our municipal facilities of City Hall, our courts, our rec centers that we've improved upon, supporting the bond issue 7 to build this wonderful new high school. That's an important element. Quality of life. I feel clearly the underpinnings of any community is its quality of life, and that includes its schools, its parks, and the neighborhoods, and the visual appeal of all that is very important. So I think that's important. I'd say another element perhaps is that I feel I've been a strong manager of the city's operations in terms of getting the absolute most out of our city personnel. And we've reorganized certain departments, and through automation, we've managed to maintain service levels, I think, at a equal, in many cases a higher level than perhaps in the past, with diminishing resources. We transitioned our sanitation program, so I think quality of our community is important. I think I've demonstrated strong management of the organization. I think perhaps another element is that that may represent or embody me is that I've never shied away from taking on an issue that I felt needed to be addressed. If I felt a certain course of action was to be pursued, whether it was popular or not, whether the timing was good or bad, I think the record would show that I was out there promoting whatever I felt was the right thing to do, regardless of its appeal, popularity, or the timing. So I'm proud that it's interesting. The 12 years in some regards has gone so fast, and on the other hand, it seems like it's been most of my life that so much has happened in these 12 years. So,
have you made any recommendations to your successor, Holly Brenda, on how she should approach or handle any particular issues?
We've met once at some length, talked a little bit about the fact that I'm preparing to have such a discussion to talk about some of those handoff items. So and we've chatted on the phone, and we do plan in the next week or two to sit down, and I plan to. I'm keeping a folder of items that are in progress or persistent problems perhaps, or issues that we'd like to deal with in a couple of the departments. The building department is one that came up last evening in terms of code enforcement, and there's a story in the paper this morning on that matter. That's an area that needs attention. We've given attention, more needs to be placed on it, but at the same time, the department's probably about half of the size that it was just several years ago. Fire department is a significant item. There are many items that have been that are ongoing. There's Route 57. There's sewer policies. The Cascade Park, what the resolution of that needs to be. Swimming pools. There's many. There's probably another 10 items that are of importance. Our central maintenance facility, what to do about that. And I think the Tappan site that we cleaned up over the last 12 years is, I think, probably right now the strongest location to consider going forward.
Some of those are on my list of questions still to be asked.
Okay.
One of them you mentioned first there was the housing. Some people came to council to request that the city speed up its process of dealing with blighted housing, whether it's foreclosed housing, housing that doesn't meet the city's codes, abandoned housing. As I understand it, the city does not have any housing inspectors at the moment. Why is that, and is it time to bring some back?
To all health and PE teachers, your presence is required for a meeting in the main office conference room. Thank you.
Well, the staffing is essentially a function of finances and the ability to pay for them. For quite a number of years, we've had 4 housing inspectors that do simply that, inspect housing for code compliance. And then we've had 6 to 8 individuals that do building construction inspections. We've eliminated the housing inspectors and now put that burden also on the building inspectors. Now, theoretically, they match up in that we need 6, 8 people to do construction inspections because you need experts on those who have licensing in plumbing and those in electrical and general and so on. You need the bodies, but there's not necessarily, because of the declining construction, enough volume of work for them to do. So that's where we felt it theoretically blended well, having those individuals and then putting the code enforcement responsibility among their work. So I believe it's largely a function of management and making sure that these individuals are most effectively and efficiently using their time to do both functions. So there's been a bit of pushback from some of those employees that have been inspectors that don't necessarily like the idea of doing code compliance. There's been some discipline of those in part of that, and more needs to be done to get that in order. That was going to be a priority of mine over the next 4 years, and hopefully it will be of Mayor-elect Brenda, to work on that, because I do believe there's, as I told our building inspector a number of weeks ago, there are many factors that led to the housing condition that we have, from the lack of code enforcement to the poor economy, to the quality of the community in which people have not invested in their homes and chose to go elsewhere. There are many factors that got us where we're at, and there are many factors that are going to be a part of our neighborhoods being rebuilt and reinvested in, including a better economy and better perceived schools and so on. But none of that's going to happen unless the building department is front and center in code compliance. So the building department needs to be an integral element of that effort. Now, besides perhaps pulling funds out of another place, and there's not many places to pull from other than police and fire at this point, you could charge fees for certain things. For example, there's many cities will charge a rental registration a fee where they may charge $25 or $50 per unit, or might be a break if it's a bigger unit facility, and use those funds to pay for the inspectors to do inspections. So there's something there, and we've toyed with that, but just haven't had the personnel from a management perspective to put that in place. And would like that, and would hope that that can be done here in the next couple of years.
I could imagine that might meet some objection from a landlord's organization.
Yes, it might. And I've met with the Lake Erie Landlords Group, who they're a very credible, well-informed organization of landlords, and for the most part they welcome it. Those that are most involved and the more professional, I might say, landlords, their properties are generally in good shape, and they don't like either that their peers in the industry don't take care of their properties. So there would be some pushback, but ultimately it's the community that it needs to be addressed. And
the city has gotten some money, some federal money, for tearing down blighted housing through the neighborhood stabilization program. Is there much left? Can the city do more with that kind of funding?
It will help, and we've made some progress over the last couple of years with some of the program funds, but I'll say this also, that we've been lobbying Sherrod Brown's office and Betty Sutton to work with the federal government to adjust the formula. They've required to put more money toward rehabilitation than we think would be appropriate. Cities like Elyria, we have...
Mrs. Kirch, to the main office. Mrs. Kirsch, to the main office, please. Mrs. Kirsch, to the main office.
Older cities like Elyria, we have a glut of homes that are beyond the point of being repaired and brought back to code. One of two things have to happen with these homes. Either they need to be brought to code or demolished. And again, cities like Elyria and Lorain and Cleveland and Mansfield and so many across the country, we have an abundance of homes that need simply to be torn down. And that's probably the most efficient use of funds, to just simply tear those homes down. Now, the money is needed to renovate a home. It's very expensive to do that, for government to step in and pay contractors at contractor rates and going through the requirements that are necessary. It's far more efficient in a system to have people buy their homes and that take pride in them and want to be in the neighborhoods and communities in which they're in, and on their weekends improve their homes little by little. That's the most efficient way to improve the quality of a home. And that's where the quality of the community, the schools and parks and so on, will create that environment, in my view. So I think the federal government needs to apply these funds, more of them in fact, but put more of an emphasis on demolition, acquisition and demolition, and then when circumstances change, then those lands can be held and resold or conveyed to individuals that can rebuild or expand on their neighboring homes.
Holly, Brenda, and Chase Rittenauer and Lorraine have talked about a land bank as an approach to dealing with some of these problems, where an organization would buy and hold property and perhaps for later redevelopment. Is that something you think is a good idea?
Absolutely. And in fact, I met with Jim Rokakis from Cuyahoga County, who's the director of the Western Reserve Land Conservancy, they've gotten that started, and he was an integral player in getting the state to create the legislation to allow for this. And perhaps a follow-up conversation can be had with the county treasurer, Dan Telerik. He's an integral person in this equation. The county has to be a player, and particularly the county treasurer. So that's an area where the treasurer needs to be playing a very active role in helping the cities in the county, Lorain and Elyria, to do this. I have had a great interest in doing this, and but because of my status of it being done at the end of the year and not necessarily getting the support from the county, as I kind of described earlier, to do such things, it was futile to get started this year. So I'm happy that the mayors-elect Rittenauer and Brenda are looking at this, and hopefully we'll push that through. It's an integral element that's needed.
Another subject you mentioned earlier was Cascade Park. Does it concern you that Dan Martin is planning to retire from the Lorain County Metro Parks, just as Elyria is beginning to discuss whether it should give the Metro Parks the authority to run Cascade?
Well, that always exists when you turn an enterprise over to an organization. None of the parties are going to be there guaranteed for the life of an agreement, so you never know. Now, of course, we know more clearly now that he's clearly not going to be here very long. But I would hope that with the board that they have and the culture that's been facilitated by Mr. Barton, I think he's done an exceptional job of managing the county metro parks. And I would hope between himself and his board that they have a culture of excellence that will convey to his successor. And I would have a high degree of confidence that that organization will be able to make good on whatever agreements that are determined over the next year.
In your final State of the City speech yesterday, you showed a slide that referred to the need to lay off 19 firefighters next year when federal grant paying for them expires. The grant is paying for 23, not just 19. Why did you choose that number, and have you talked with Holly Brenda about how many firefighters the city should have?
The number we have not talked about, although those numbers have been clearly portrayed and made available. I'm sure she's contemplating it, in recent weeks, and as her term approaches. The 19 was chosen because that would take us down to the 56 that the management study of the fire department recommended. Now, the other footnote to that is that management study also said that 56 will work, provided also that contract concessions be made among the firefighters so that they, in essence, are working more hours. So, I think we're in a case where the city needs to meet the firefighters more halfway and probably go down to that 52 number, which would be the absence of the grant, and work with the firefighters union to adjust their benefits, their time off upwards, so they have less time off, so that 56 will have the effect that the management study called for and be able to operate 3 stations with regularity.
Now, you just concluded a round of negotiations with the firefighters. Can you reopen them? How would that work?
Yeah, you can. Both parties, upon mutual consent, can always open up the contract and have a mutually, agreeable conversation and determine things. That is always an option, and it sometimes happens with the different bargaining units if there's an issue that comes up that you need to have a side agreement to incorporate in the contract. So that's always available. The minute the contract's signed, both parties can come back to the table and discuss that. So I'm told we're down to less than a minute here.
Well, I do have my last minute question.
Okay.
Winter's approaching. Is the city ready to clear the streets of snow? Does it have enough plows, enough salt?
Yeah, we're in probably the best shape we've been on that front, in that we've got extra leaf equipment that we had talked about at the State of the City yesterday. So we're done collecting leaves for the year. We've done our people have done an exceptional job. All the vehicles and equipment are all being converted over to snow removal condition as we speak, so we are ready to go with a full fleet. We've ordered equipment here of late, so not to rest on that, but so the city needs to regularly, and we've done a pretty good job the last couple of years at least of buying 1 or 2 pieces of heavy equipment, and one is due in, I believe, soon, and they need to keep ordering them. But right now we're definitely as good and perhaps better than we've been in many years in terms of our equipment and our ability to plow the snow. So hopefully the winter will be kind to us and we'll be able to take care of those needs. Well, again, this is my last roundtable, and I have appreciated very much Elyria City Schools and staff here that have done a wonderful job of hosting us here. It's a joy to be part of this new EHS facility here. They did so when we were at the old high school and when we were at the administration building, and that's very much appreciated. I might also say, going back further, to Lorraine County Community College and Time Warner, Comcast, they were very similarly well at hosting this roundtable over these years. So again, I thank the Chronicle Telegram for your involvement, and the schools and the community for making this program worthwhile. And I'm confident that my successor will continue this, and that this won't be the last show, but simply for me. So, till we see each other on the streets, bye for now.